Okay.
Okay. Gotta hit my got it. Oh, come on. Everything's going crazy today. There we go. Okay, welcome everybody to the First Wednesday Spoken Word series. This series is sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. The Writers Guild at Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington were built on indigenous homelands and resources. We recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We have some upcoming events. Thursday Sunday Write is a virtual, it's a closed Facebook page right now. So it's a virtual place to find writing prompts in the company of other writers. Members visit the private Facebook page to respond to prompts that are posted monthly. You can write and post anytime during the month and offer a response to others writing by sharing a read back line, a line from their piece, in the comments. If you would like more information about the group or if you'd like to join, please contact Shauna Ritter at shauna747@gmail.com, and please include Third Sunday in your subject line. And all of this information that I'm going to be giving you is also available on our website. Okay, we have a monthly business meeting coming up at the end of the month that will be in person, everything COVID restrictions permitting, Saturday, August 28th at 3 p.m. in the Monroe County Public Library, room 2A. And we just got the new guidelines today saying that we need to be masked indoors, whether we have been vaccinated or not. There will be poetry on demand in a couple of places. So at Affair of the Arts at the Switchyard Park Pavilion, Tuesday, August 10th and 24th from 4 to 7 p.m. And also at the 4th Street Festival, we'll be having a poetry on demand little table over where we usually have our stage, which is at 4th and Dunn. And that will be sponsored by the Writers Guild that Labor Day weekend, September 4th to 5th. So we don't get a spoken word stage this year. We're going to be doing our regular spoken word series in lieu of being able to be up on the stage. But please do go by and see our hardworking poets and who are hardworking in multiple ways. I mean, not only are they doing the poetry on demand, but they have to work. It's no easy job keeping those manual typewriters in working order. And so we owe a great debt of thanks to the people who have little screwdrivers in their pockets at all times. All this information is available on our website or by liking and following us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or sign up for our newsletter by visiting our website, which is writersguildbloomington, all one word.com. And I will put the running order again in the chat. So we will be having our welcome and then music, and then each of our 3 poets will be reading. We'll have music again, more readings, and we will be ending with music. So we're going to start tonight with Michelle Rosewoman, who is a vanguard and pioneering artist in her field. She creates a distinct musical experience by digging deep into her vast reservoir of acoustic modern jazz, sophisticated funk, dynamic electric fusion, and elements of Cuban folkloric music. Her command and rich vocabulary elegantly expand the horizons and boundaries of jazz while remaining firmly rooted in tradition. With a more than 40-year history, Rosewoman stands out in her class as a visionary pianist, composer, educator, bandleader, and gifted performer. CD Now said, quote, "No other pianist, composer in jazz brings the music of the African diaspora together quite like Michelle Rosewoman. Simply put, she's one of the most creative and fully realized jazz artists on the scene today, and it is our great privilege and honor to have her here." So we're going to start with some music by Michelle Rosewoman, and then we will move on to our poets. Thank you.
Okay, I'm muting over here. Hold on a second. Okay. Greetings, everybody.
Sorry, my screen was kicked over to the side. I couldn't unmute myself in time. That was wonderful, Michelle. Thank you so much. So we'll transition now to the poets. And our first poet tonight is Hiromi Yoshida, who is one of Bloomington's finest and most outspoken poets. She's a finalist for the 2019 New Women's Voices Poetry Prize for her book Icarus Burning, which was published by Finishing Line Press in 2020. And she's a semifinalist for the 2020 Gerald Cable Book Award for Green Roses Bloom for Icarus. She's a freelance writer and editor who's contributed to Limestone Post and the Bloomingtonian. She is also the diversity consultant for the Writers Guild at Bloomington and the poetry workshop leader for the award-winning Vital program at the Monroe County Public Library, while serving as a poetry reader for Flying Island Journal and for Plath Profiles, and as a copy editor for JIDRA. Her poems have been nominated for inclusion in the Sundress Best of the Net Anthology and have been added to the Inverse Poetry Archive. Her second poetry chapbook, Epicanthus, is forthcoming from Finishing Line Press, and her third one, Icarus Redux, from Alien Buddha Press. And I'm going to put the link for the pre-order for Epicanthus in the chat so that you can click the link there. So please join me in welcoming Hiromi Yoshida.
Thank you for that introduction, Joan. Hello, everybody. I will start by reading three poems from Epicanthus. The first is called Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The flash, the crash, the ash. Decimation was instantaneous. Skeletons etched upon asphalt, shadows sick with radiation, vomited skyward curses. The true man hanging from the ever-blossoming tree of public panic, unlynched. My next poem is called Shikata ga nai, or Let It Be. And it is based upon the Japanese American incarceration after the atomic bombs. Shikata ga nai. Stoic acceptance, not passive acquiescence. Not dumb cattle herded into packed boxcars. Not subservient jabs, as though truncation diminishes self-esteem. Swallowing the bitter spittle of outrage regarding Executive Order 9066, like green tea without the usual ceremony. Heavy steps, overstuffed duffel bags. All that two arms can carry, all that the heart can carry. Shikata ga nai. Swallow, lunge, forward. Gravel, crunch. Toxic, gammon. Overblown chrysanthemum heads drop with the weight of apology. Moshiwake nai. For being Japanese American at the wrong time. As though there were a right time for these porous, hybrid, many-petaled things. The skies above Manzanar were sheets of moth-eaten kimono silk, taut with anxiety, mottled with unanswered questions, henpicked with cruel stars. The lacquered bento boxes, the sake cups, the porcelain rice bowls, the spoons, chopsticks, the obi sashes matchless with lost kimono pieces, and the children without their hinamatsuri dolls. Where are they now? Cucumbers and plums pickle in formaldehyde jars. Shikata nai. All right, the next poem is a long poem. It's called COVID America, and it is up for a Pushcart Prize nomination. COVID America. It began with the Chinese virus, injected invective into mainstream media flows, no filters, till the United States of America became a filthy petri dish, breeding, incubating, resurrected hashtags and multiple truncations, shutdowns, lockdowns, one-handed masturbation sessions. Walmart shopping sprees for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, as though 6 feet apart isn't long enough distance between Democrats and Republicans. The length of an average-sized coffin in America. And now, masked faces are politically correct emojis, and school children and teachers are collateral damage, waiting to be counted and collected, slipping through the cracks of the 2020 census, while Karen became the princess ensconced in ice at the glassy apex of Capitol Hill, and George Floyd became the summer hashtag excuse erupting from claustrophobic suburban closets. If the coronavirus is a left-wing government hoax, then the KKK is a masquerade of sadomasochistic blacks smirking in white hoods. Halt tic-tac, tick-tock negotiations because no Americans got a Chinaman's chance. Swallow bleach to sanitize mansions of the mind inundated with misinformation. Pimp Polaroids for Facebook likes and Twitter followers. Keep digging in the gold mines of overflowing dumpsters with rubber gloves. Pick out soggy Cheerios with OCD childhood spoons, because all lives matter in heaven and hell. A COVID test is like a Shirley Jackson lottery, but the black dot is the cue ball shot across vast green fields where stripes and solids and life and death are equal opportunities for all. America, the big boobed nation, is not particularly interested in flattening out curves because bigger is better and biggest is best. So let's go ahead and say that COVID-19 is symptomatic of the American diseases of racism and all other isms and orgasmic schisms. Corporate greed, homelessness, obesity, sugar, salt, butter, cheese, red meat, fast food, barbecue sauce, overkill. Mrs. Butterworth, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Jemima, the menage a trois falling off their respective supermarket shelves like shot down Confederate statues. And BLM is the graffiti scroll of underground discourses like the N-word, the F-word, the word branded upon the obscene, obese flesh of the denying American brain. the word with which the world began and could end. So, cover up the big American motor mouth. Speak no evil. Spitting out epithelial epithets using leftover duct tape from 9/11 terror alert days. Fauci and Kevorkian morph into Siamese twins in paranoid collective consciousness in a nation ruled by old white men. When will Uncle Sam wear a dress? When he, she, they are dressed to kill. When will we cry uncle? When will mother know best? When will entropic atoms coalesce into utopia? Nobody in America wants to wear a mask that covers up full, luscious, smiling lips. CoverGirl, disenfranchised. Nobody wants to comply with government mandates in a democratic America. Gag bag of party tricks, a piñata exploding, plastic Cracker Jack prizes in your face. America is an immigrant's wet dream, the green residue of pitched pennies. America is a melting pot of incompatible condiments, a conundrum of pundits, lamb stew of crab rangoons and national lampoons, Willy Wonka's chocolatier walk and Charlie Chan's chapstick factory. Enigmatic rejection of USPS operations generates nostalgia for the taste of glue and the sticky back sides of US postage stamps. America is a silly thing. America is a bleached blonde virago. America is a floating signifier. Hollywood's mega mouth, sound and fury. America is a masquerade of giggling, scrawny, pimpled, dimpled teenagers. America is a narcissist reflected in gilt-edged, gargantuan, Baroque mirrors, guilt-tripping down strip malls, stripped of all shame, like the naked emperor. American dads curse at barbecue grills that won't start up. American moms upbraid their pigtailed daughters for smashing their overstuffed piggybacks prematurely. American kids vie for the biggest unbroken cookie. American dogs sniff the biggest crotches. It all ends with the Chinese virus eating its own gray spermatozoic rat tail uroborically, gagging on the dust of desecrated Edens. Shriveled, mummy Chinatowns scattered across the pockmarked moon face of America. Polaroid, cheese that stands alone on one shriveled Zen leg.
Thank you, Hiromi. Those were very, very, very strong and powerful poems. Our next reader is Antonia Matthew, who is originally from England. She's lived in Bloomington since 1968. She's a member of 5 Women Poets, and with them has published 3 chapbooks and put out a CD. She grew up during World War II, and this informs much of her work. Her play Homefront, which is built around the letters that she received from her father, who was fighting in Burma in World War II, has been performed live in Bloomington and is currently being produced in London as a full cast audio dramatization. Please join me in welcoming Tonya Matthew.
I want to thank Hiromi for inviting me to read with her and JL at this time. of seriously remembering Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Most of my poems are going to be about wartime, and some of them will reference the Japanese War too. I'm going to start though with a poem about cranes, because I know that in Japanese culture, the crane is a very positive symbol. Outside in early spring, Patrick, who is here to trim the box hedge and the rose of Sharon, breaks off and says, look up. Do you hear them, the cranes heading north? See how they spiral. They are riding the air currents, and there's another flock circling. Hear them, they're circling around. Look, rising higher, getting closer. Hear them so loud. Their legs hang down behind them like pterodactyls. Look, the flocks are linking up. Ah, they've made it, heading straight north. See them flying so slowly, as befits ancient creatures. Look. I think one of the things that happens in war is that we're kind of on pause because there's so much we don't know about what's going on. So this poem is about that, and it was included in my play. Wartime home. Everything waited, except perhaps the potatoes by the old rose bed. They just grew. But the roses on the wall waited. Perhaps they would be torn down, and peas sown to climb the netting and produce green pods that would wait to be picked. And my cat Sooty waited for the catnip to grow again, and for one of the pigeons cooing on the rooftop to fly down and peck for seeds. And the pigeons, of course, waited for the cat to go away. The sundial waited to make a shadow, to tell the time. There seemed to be more clouds these days. And the grass and the flowers waited to see if there would be dug up, more vegetables planted. The house waited, still standing, willing to shake a little more, but just the same, wondering if it would survive another air raid, and how many tiles the incendiary bombs would break the next time. And the mother inside the house waited for a reason to smile again, waited for him to come home, and for the telegram she didn't want, and the letters she did. And the child, see her behind the jasmine vines in the trellis porch, reading or moving toy people around, making up stories. She waited for, well, she didn't know, because this waiting was all she knew. This second poem, which will also be my last poem, was written after 9/11, but it encompasses other wars and has a tribute to Hiroshima in it. September 2001. The days turn cooler and gray. The wind scrapes redbud branches against the window. I pull up summer zinnias, scatter the seeds, plant chrysanthemums. Yellow, red, orange, they glow in the somber autumn day. Soon leaves will fall, red, orange, yellow, flaming down as the towers flamed up and fell. Trees will hold spaces as our hearts do. How to apprehend this giant funeral pyre? At Hiroshima, thousands of silhouettes lay, ashes on the streets, long legacy of sickness to follow. Monarchs drift one by one south, hummingbirds follow. This morning, high overhead, a solitary goose flew east to west. Old childhood griefs reemerge, the air raid shelters, bombs falling. The next day, a neighboring street in rubble, not all the classroom desks filled. My father's promises proving empty. What returns? A photo of a numbered wooden cross. When was the world ever a safe place? Now it is us here thinking what next and when. Out of Hiroshima, a wish. This is our cry. This is our prayer. Peace in the world. We have yet to speak these words, to fold the 1,000 paper cranes.
So very beautiful. It was lovely to hear the part from your play again. It's just very nice to revisit that. So our third poet tonight is Alcatto, who is a native of Japan. He was adopted by an American serviceman and his Japanese bride. As a child, he became so assimilated into American culture that to this day, he doesn't know how to handle chopsticks. His poems have appeared in the Tipton Poetry Journal, The Flying Island, Country Feedback, Paterson Literary Review, Arts and Letters, Journal of Contemporary Culture, and A Cocoon for the Pages, Matrix Anthology. He lives in Indiana, where he works as an editor. His book, Shadows Set in Concrete, won the Poetry Prize for Best Books of Indiana in 2011. Please join me in welcoming Alcatto.
Hello. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Hiromi, for initially extending this invitation 2 years ago before the pandemic. And thank you, Bloomington Writers Guild. And in my first set, I'm going to read some poems from a new manuscript I'm working on concerned with mythological figures. In my second set, I'll read some poems about my Japanese heritage. But the first one tonight, I'm going to comment on the goddess, or not goddess, maybe enchantress or sorceress, Circe. I tried to imagine what she would be if she was on campus today. Circe on campus. Circe, the classical studies scholar, selects her own sorority. She turns her frat rat suitors into sisters, then invites them to dine. The vestiges of men taint this dinner party. Loudish manners remain. These nouveau femmes transform the feast into a testosteronated banquet by lifting their chair legs, holding their knives as antlers, and acting like rutting rams clashing over the centerpiece. At the football stadium, docile jocks assemble where the jealous Circe has arranged their transformation into swine. At the 50-yard line, they count off their fate, where 1 in 20 become boars, the rest sows. How else to propagate the species of pork chops, pickled snouts, and tenderloins for the guests at Circe's table? In the kitchen, Circe's male professors are now apron-clad women, seasoning their arguments with scallions and garlic. Brothing at the mouth, the cooks whip their pigtails till they interlock, interpeding civil intercourse, interrupting the serving of soup. In the dining hall, Circe sits at the table's head, swilling her blood-red wine. The next poem is titled Stoned Love. Your name is Medusa, her parents explained, because at birth, your eyes glared at the world. Though she loves her parents, father and mother stand as stately statues in the plaza. Medusa's husbands never survive their honeymoons, yet Miss M keeps hoping. The frequent widow sits alone in a bar anticipating the next pickup line. In the parking lot, a dozen men display hard rock muscles. Lovers locked in endless poses. She once fancied a man who promised her the moon to hang around her neck. He gave instead a white glass orb, which she returned, inserted in the socket of his stone stubborn head. Now the bar is empty, the patrons dead. Still, Medusa waits outdoors. Outside the entrance, she faces the dawn, hair writhing in the wind. Radio Eden. Between the frequencies of talk radio and gospel, a voice in my car spoke. "Where are you going?" I replied I was fleeing Eden, for I was naked and ashamed. "Who told you you were naked?" The silver-tongued clerk back at the gas station selling sunscreen and sunglasses. That's when the sun disappeared. Giant locusts smashed my windshield. Blind toads gummed up my wipers. Hailstones cracked my sunroof. Then the airbag deployed, and I was glad, for my nakedness was covered, and I praised my merciful Ford. Then Eve called to ask what time I'd be home, and would I stop at the Golden Calf for a loaf of bread? I did. But for penance, I was forced to wander back roads for 40 years without my GPS. One of the pop culture myths that I grew up with was Popeye. So naturally, I had to write a poem about him. It's called Popeye Propaganda. The sailor, capitalist hero, fortified by the color green. The villain, black bearded Bolshevik and Olives's shifty-eyed suitor. The two men battle constantly while the bastard Sweepy searches desperately for Olive's tit. Meanwhile, the men's titanic battle tips the universe, while Wimpy diplomatically advises restraint. No one listens, no one understands a thing except this. With spinach consumed, the muscles grow hard, tisk tisk. With one arm, Popeye lifts his anchor tattoo, swivels his bulging biceps, and punches Bluto on the nose. Flash, a fireball extends. Lights out, Bluto. Lights out, world. And I'm going to leave you with a short haiku-like poem, although it's not a haiku. And if you know me, I don't write haiku. But this one's called Godzilla. Our feet stamp with yours, old lizard breath. We love to watch you dance, heads impaled on neon claws. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Those were wonderful. I hope, I forgot to mention it before, the performers especially, you should keep track of what's happening in the chat, because people are posting lovely things about your work and giving you all manner of compliments. So we are ready to hear Michelle one more time for a slightly longer set this time, and then we'll come back for some more poetry.
So thank y'all for having me as a part of this, and these are heavy times, and definitely some strong words being shared and spoken. I am also, spoken word means a lot to me as well. I'm going to play freely around a new poem. This is lighter uh, and coming from the joy of my life as a musician that lives in a certain kind of bubble because of the artistic setting of my life. Uh, the journey is a beautiful one in the midst of the madness. So we'll share some of that. Soundtrack. Soundtrack. Conductor of emotion and recall. Ghosted visions manifest in full view. Bonafide. Bonafide. Came through the window on an evening breeze. Love serene, a very spiritual dream. Footsteps bound to sound. Play complex melodies, all one theme. Imprints from ritual. Play time, play space. A lifetime reverberating in place. 'Cause a living is more than a life, more than a lifetime. I see it left a track, and representing and referencing the footnotes, I can follow it back. Soul cycles in surround sound. On the way up or down, a sojourn to roots. I got to spread this thing around. I could trace my life this way, tracking sound from my beginnings to my forevers. Soundtrack. I can follow it back. Thank you. Let's see, what should I play next?
Lovely. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to share something with you. This is actually from a Jazz Coalition Foundation piece, and this is the foundation for a piece of music. But rather than play the whole thing, I'm going to quickly read this, and I hope you'll accept my contribution to the spoken word series. Backwards driving, somehow surviving, still aglow in the eye of this out of control. Astride powered by make away, this sunrise shimmering with new day. Occasion to rise, ancestors beckon, while the other side, well, they must wake up and reckon. Too dense for pretense, fair is fair, and they don't know how to breathe out there, but home is everywhere there's air. A body of unity, migration through time and space that must seep into cracks to soften the brutal edges of this forsaken place. Time will, and light will. Tiptoe tides tell, the passing is the coming of time. Do it, ride this wave to the finish line. Reach and pull it all into the free with that unstoppable resiliency. Some things wholly hover. Gray skies smell of something hiding. Keep tactics under cover so it can't be undone. Then fly in color. The time has come. You are into forever now, and you know no stops. It's time for change, and this poem is dedicated to, and the piece of music is dedicated to the move towards freedom, equity, and all things that have been missing for so long. And I appreciate all the poets here for speaking on important, serious matters, and I wanted to contribute in that light as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Music was beautiful, and that last piece was great. It was great. So we are coming up on another round of poetry, and we're going to start this time with Tonya Matthews.
Another thing that wars do is to seep or worm their way into everyday life. They change the way you look at something. This poem is called Living in the World. All morning, two robins calling, calling, a fledgling out of the nest again. Where? One bird on a neighbor's tall back fence, the other swaying on a telephone wire, calling, calling. These cries pour me out into the high weeds by the fence, the weeds, the wild rose tangle, the low mulberry branches surrounding me with green light. The fledgling must be near, but I can't hear it. What if I frighten them away? Is it in a bush or crouched on the ground? Neighborhood cats are sure to be drawn to this plaintive calling, calling. I imagine them stalking through dimness to circle, tails lashing. I stand still, hold my breath. Nothing. I can't rescue them all, I tell myself, thinking of the one taken to wild care with a sprained wing. It's time to go to work. I stumble out. Have I done all I can? But there is still that calling, calling. Too many shells exploding, too much weeping, bloody bodies, smoking rubble, fallen fledglings. And my next poem has to do with bombing and the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was like something had never been seen before, and we hope devoutly that will never be seen again. So this is a small piece of bombing. It's set in England, and sort of shows what gets lost out of our everyday lives. Houses of war. 1. These houses have no locks. These houses have no doors. These houses have no rooms. Only spaces where walls and ceilings used to be, where stoves heated porridge or boiled eggs, where bathtubs waited for children, beds welcomed lovers. Cellars from which the coal has been stolen are open to the air, choked with rubble, plaster, bricks, floorboards, splintered glass. Where roofs once were, only memories, children playing in attics among old trunks and unused furniture. Where a lone wall still stands, tattered wallpaper, ends of beams, broken window frames, shredded curtains, and over it all, odor of fire. 2. Herbaceous borders in the gardens are smothered in weeds. Only foxgloves rise tall. By day, in this wilderness, children roam. The gardens, their jungles, the houses, their territories to which they need no key. The remains of gone lives, fragments of china, glass, wisps of fabric, a doll's arm, broken building blocks are grabbed, bartered, fought over. These crumbling, treacherous ruins where feral creatures hide, to the children are mountain ranges, caves, mazes, ancient cities, where battles, deeds of daring are enacted. 3. When dusk comes, the children leave. Then the ruins, the wild gardens, belong to the displaced, the casualties of war, homeless, injured, unemployed, who scavenge for anything of value, bricks and planks, handy weapons for staking out a corner, to drink, have rough forced sex, or simply find shelter for the night. 4. Before dawn, the night people leave. The houses, the gardens emerge as if shaking off the night, and wait another day for their families to return, life resume its familiar routine. And my last poem of this set is more hopeful. It shows that we're still out there hoping for the best, hoping that war can be prevented. And in 2003, there was an event where candles were lit in different communities that moved. They started at 7 o'clock and were lit at 7 o'clock all the way around the world at local time. So it created a movement of light around the globe. So this is called On Not Cursing the Darkness, March 2003. In New Zealand, starting almost a day ago, lights are moving west to cross Japan, India, Ethiopia, Italy, the Azores, and now in Bloomington, Indiana, joined by Honduras, the Galapagos Islands, Peru. Under the rising evening moon, these new constellations glimmer. Ours revolves around the courthouse, the floodlit statue of justice, over the south door with torch held high, seeming to have kindled our candles. We stand silent, then at 8 p.m., sing as Saskatchewan, Mexico, Easter Island ignite. At 9 p.m., my friend solitary in the Arizona desert, surrounded by the Ricon and Santa Rita mountains, lights her tall votive. It's 10 p.m., and my children stand in a San Francisco street and wave sparkles. Later, constellations flare in American Samoa, Alaska, and then are gone. Did the astronauts see lights washing like spray from a tidal wave across the darkened globe? Know that it was people not cursing, but lighting candles.
It's so beautiful. And again, Tonya, I hope you have been able to access the chat because there are a lot of very nice comments for you. Our second reader is JL.
Hello again. This set of poems will be about my rediscovered Japanese heritage. The first poem will be called At the Breakfast Table. My mother's mumblings bounce off the fold of an omelet. Is it a prayer to follow ancestral gods or a childhood song about crickets in a cage? Most likely it's a complaint that her eggs are cold, words drowned in juice, swallowed with toast. What did you say? My mother reveals no secrets, stares at my forehead, speaks Japanese. She slurps the last of her coffee, demands to smoke by smacking her lips, then drawing her white right hand, scissor style, to her mouth. I remember when she was tall, a woman in her prime who wore lipstick, thermometer red, mercury reaching 100 degrees, a fevered life of stretching nylons over her knee, parading smoke rings across the air. She would laugh in public as she extinguished each ember, leaving ashtrays filled with filter tips, headstones standing in cold sand. Men emerged from the whisk, silver lighters in hand. Some offered their favorite brands. A few winked at me as they would to a baby brother. Sometimes she accepted their benevolence by clutching my wrist. She showed me how a pack of Salems can act like a chugging locomotive. She pulled the wrapper down an inch and burned a hole with her cigarette, filling the chamber with smoke. She let me slide the cellophane up and down, releasing white clouds that bounced off the ceiling. She showed me too how a match can burn twice. The next is a narrative that since I've written it and spoke with other Asian Americans, found out that it's a common thing among Asian Americans. And this common thing will be revealed in the second part of the poem. But it's called Fearing the Dragon. 1. The first time I realized there was an Asian way of fighting, I was 8 years old. My American father left to pick up some cigarettes after promising to return soon. He did, but it was 3 a.m. when I heard his belches soaking our beer-stained couch, his knee knocking ashtrays to our thin carpet. From my bed, I heard him demand breakfast. Mother slammed the skillet, broke 2 eggs, while father mumbled about needing something else, something with legs. I imagined nubs of an unshaven chin nuzzling her white neck, her shrill no, then a sickly thud. I ran to the kitchen, nearly stepped on father's face, his shoulder indenting linoleum, yolk running down one sprawled leg, black coffee around his head. Mother, silent, cinched her robe. The next morning, her kitchen was clean, and sitting alone at the table, father winked at me, blowing smoke rings. A few days later, I watched him burn leaves in the yard before he walked away and never came back. 2. In 8th grade, I leaped and kicked at plywood strips and pretended they were boards. Splinters forced me to limp for a week. It was the year my mother grounded me when I dropped to a B in social studies. You Japanese do better than American kids. They know study, run around, stupid, play Bruce Lee. When I started high school, Mother and I would watch David Carradine kick white ass on TV. Race riots flared, and my mother warned me I'd be carved alive from knives pulled from afros, and my skinny yellow butt wouldn't survive another day. As predicted, a fist-raised black-powering dude hailed his nearby brothers to surround me, to teach me a lesson about messing with 3 badass mothers. They must have seen Carradine the night before, carefully removing his shoes. Walk away, one said. Leave this one alone. He knows Kung Fu. This is called Less Than Human. Rhonda, the 14-year-old sitter, takes my 6-year-old hand and leads me to her room. I have something to show you. I've been practicing all day. She commands me to sit on the floor facing her performance. This is Chinese. She pushes her temples to form 2 slitted eyes. This is Japanese. She raises her brows to create 2 slants. And this, she pulls up her dress past the bend of her legs. This is American knees. She waits for me to laugh, but all I can do is stare as her dress droops around her hands, her thighs exposed. Okay, the next poem is a rendering of a frequent nightmare I used to have growing up and well into adulthood. And it's like edited memories of Japan, a land that I hardly knew since I came to America at the age of 2. But anyway, here's the dream, and it's called The Cutting Room. Moonlit sky, silvery sheen, sliver of light, soft groan, open window, pink peonies, white comb, sliver of light, pink paper fan, white moth in shadows, an unlit bulb. Black strand of hair, white comb, swaddled to a slat the baby sweeps, red obi binds hands and feet, bare bulb, crescent moon, sliver of light, a train arrives, hiss of steam and gasp of brakes. Seeping out the train, kimono-clad women hum, single file, past the open window, open mouths, open fans, rustle of silk. Mist descends. The baby wakes and blinks at powdered faces, pale moons, red lips, pink paper fans, white combs, hiss of steam, gasp of brakes, white moth, fluttering groan, sliver of light. Bare bulb swings, baby's cheek, black strands of hair, white sharp comb, red obi slashed, slivers, pink fingers, crescent moon, window shut. In unison, the geishas sing and bare their white teeth. One of the things that I had to do was, even though I grew up and I heard these terms and I knew they were Japanese in origin, I didn't really know anything about them. So when I heard my kids playing, what's it, Teenage Ninja Mutant Warriors or whatever it is, it got me thinking about ninjas. And I found out that they were called shinobi. So this is a little poem about shinobi. Ninjas walk among us, observing every naked move we make. They saw when we strolled, undressed, stopping to pick up cold, flat stones that we flung at creeping, sleeping cranes, held sacred for happiness and long life. Recall the hour we taunted the homeless huddled under the temple bridge. We hurled rice balls soaked in sour wine, fingers smelling of dill and brine. Remember when we stole ashes from an urn, then picked the unburnt bones? While mourners shrieked, we danced like demons in lunar light. The ninjas saw. They whispered among themselves, demanding penalties of bamboo and blade. The ninjas see. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have one last set of poetry. So JL's going to lead off this set, and then Hiromi is going to read a Japanese translation of JL's poem, and then a piece of her own, and then Tonya will finish out. So, so JL, you get to start again.
Do we miss a set?
No, we're on the third set. Tony transcribed it 2 different ways. And so I'm trying to keep the order so that each poet reads in a different order. We just had the 7 minutes each, and now we're going into the 1 poem each. So, JL?
I didn't do my 7 minutes yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hiromi.
So I was kind of
No, you're right.
confused
Okay.
about that.
Okay, well, it was my
Okay.
mistake. So please go.
Okay.
So Hiromi has a 7-minute poem, and then we start the second set again, the third set.
Well, after having said that, I'm not sure if this is going to be a full 7 minutes, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to read 5 poems. And the first is called Umami. Essential component. A challenge to capture like slippery eel, yet to be broiled in soy sauce, sugar, and mirin. Think unagi. Umami, the balance of all 5 flavors countable on one hand. Sweet, salty, bitter, sour, spicy. Blending into one lovely flavor with the opening of buds. The ripening of seasons. The precarious balancing act. Slippery acrobatics across the thick, porous tongue. Okay. So while we're on the topic of food and flavors, things like that, the next one is called Grandmother's Kitchen. That dark, unlit space, a haven for my grandmother, shuffling, groping around for some odd, forgotten thing. Nothing as handy or American as Tupperware, nor as concrete as that one missing chopstick, but necessary nonetheless. Yet, she managed to pickle oshinko cucumbers and eggplants, the nukamiso stench being her friend, to emerge from that dark, unlikely space with a plate of ground beef omelet. A miracle, considering her aversion to butter. Buttocks she'd mutter about anything Western. I suppose my white gaijin boyfriends reeked of butter too, like overfed geese. That kitchen had been her inviolate space that Banana Yoshimoto would have praised to the white-tiled skies had it been visible. Nukamiso reek and incense fragrance intermingling in a pungent, vapory dance throughout that ramshackle two-storied house in Tsunamachi till my mother modernized grandmother's kitchen. She flooded electric lights into it, plastered mildewed wood walls with pink rose vinyl wallpaper, crammed the latest refrigerator model with meat and dairy products, blocks of Yuki Judashi butter for me and Maymay, who'd grown into an American teenager in the porous city of sand. Since that kitchen makeover, grandmother would appear before us while we watched Madonna writhing like a fallen snake goddess on MTV. Grandmother would be kimono-less, muttering to herself, her flattened out, shriveled up breasts exposed. A gray specter we ignored. But mother said, Ba-chan loved the new microwave that steamed leftover rice to perfect white fluff. Okay, my next poem is called Channel Surfers, and this is about me and my sister. Round and round the Japanese TV frames flashed by. Mid-song commercials. Decapitated talking heads. A whizzing jar of Shiseido night cream in an amputated hand. Zap. Long-haired, screaming girl running from a lumbering Texas chainsaw wielding. Zap. Into psychedelic Russian roulette, repeat of commercial chants, decapitated heads, amputated hands, girl still screaming and running, hair darkly plastered down the skull of her head, our screams overlapping with the girls. Wanted to unplug, dump that TV into the murky Sumida River oozing diarrheically beyond the bedroom terrace after one more round, just one more glimpse. Zap. This poem is for my mother, and it is called She Remains. 4 days after Hinamatsuri, she became that jeweled girl. 5 years before, atomic bombs shattered the oyster shell of her little heart. She grew large breasts and birthed 2 daughters who replicated her without the shell shock. She was that child cowering in the dark, spark, a tiny nucleus of energy, swollen tears, post-war remnant like the secret gnawed potato in scrawny hands that would nourish her into the solid, buxom woman she bloomed into. The PhD being the consummation of all that dark peeling away from the kernel of herself, leaving her unscathed. She was the pearl coalescing in the grimacing oyster's mouth, spitting her out, frothy iridescence, rounded and intact. Today, I celebrate the woman she is as we spring forward into wilder bloom. She remains the photographer rather than the photograph, the artist rather than the artifact, at once the signifier and the signified, the wound woman suturing the wound within. Right, and my final poem is titled Googling Monica. And this is about a cousin of mine who, with whom I wasn't close. And so, well, I figured we're not close, but I still am kind of haunted by her and our childhood memories. And so I Googled her and found her there. And this poem is based upon that experience. Googling Monica. I never knew my German cousin. Past the scrawny childhood, we both outgrew so rapidly. Nor her spectacled, gold-haired father, photographed with her kimono-clad mother, my aunt Kuniko. Yet that intricate marital knot, that post-war alliance between Axis powers they'd beautifully embodied, promised to lift Aunt Kuniko from dark cellars where potatoes were stored and secretly gnawed toward luminous, guttural realms where the obligatory Obi would no longer cut short her laughing breath. The fire and ash of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or my cousin Monica's twin legacies, folded into her embroidered kimono sleeves like overripe persimmons. She is the cousin who slipped through the cracks of grandmother's ramshackle Tsunamachi house, evaporating into rainbowed skies, now intact and smiling on Google.
Thank you. Those were wonderful. So now we have this third round that we'll start with Jael, and then Hiromi will read a Japanese translation of his poem, and then a piece of her own, and then we'll close that set with Tonya. So Jael.
Hello. This poem was based on stories that my mother would tell me. She would never tell me the whole story, but over the years, I've fitted the pieces together and come up with this poem. It's called Festival of Dolls. I mentioned the atomic bomb in here, but rather than focus on the gore and the deaths, I wanted to highlight the bomb's effect on culture, family, and society. Festival of Dolls. On the cusp of puberty, August 1945, my world changed in a gasp. From Fukuoka summer between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I saw two chariot clouds that would lift me from the cellar where precious potatoes were stored, as if my atoms were shaken, rearranged to find myself riding the cap of a mushroom shroud, drifting over Fujiyama, then east across the ocean. I believed any place else was better than where I lived, coaxing warmth from ashes, scouring streets for ragged sheets of seaweed to wrap around black market rice and fish. Once, I stole a sack of red plums, and Mother smacked my face before she sliced the fruit and offered it to Father. But in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, a hand imprinted on a cheek means nothing to shadows set in concrete. Why can't life be like Hiromi, when I would dress up all my dolls for their hand-picked husbands? I would dream of real daughters to swathe in fine kimonos. I surrendered to smiling soldiers who nicknamed me doll and promised me chocolates today and tomorrow. So much for a hungry girl with eyes for America, land of silk and money. Thank you.
My unmute keeps shifting places on my screen. So Hiromi, you're going to read a translation of the poem and then read one of your own.
Okay. Well, I will read this from JL's book, Shadows Set in Concrete. Congratulations on the award for this book. To confess, I am actually really out of touch with speaking and reading Japanese, but I'll give it my best shot. And I think that is part of the reason why I sometimes have fluency or speech projection problems, switching gears from Japanese English and vice versa. It kind of screws me up a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Festival of Dolls in Japanese. 私が大人になり始めの時点だった1945年8月、私の世界は変わった。ショックで福岡からどこか広島と長崎の間で私は見た2つの戦車の雲、大事なじゃがいもの貯蔵庫から私は空へ飛ばされそうだった。私の原子が揺さぶられ、再編成され、乗っているかのようだったキノコの京片びらの帽子の上に富士山を越え、それから東へ海を越えた。私は信じた。他のいかなる場所は私が住んでいた場所よりましだろうと。そこでは肺から暖を取った。道を探して歩いた。破れた海藻を、そして包んだ闇市で買ったお米と魚と盗んだことがあった。赤いすももの実の一袋。母は私の顔をぴしたりと叩いた。その後、身を切って父に食べさせた。でも、長崎と広島では、頬に残った手の跡なんか 何でもない。コンクリートに残された影と比べれば、なぜ人生はひな祭りのようではないのだろうか。その日には人形すべて着飾らせよう。人形たちの夫のために。私は夢見た本物の娘たちがきれいな着物を着飾ることを私は幸福した。微笑んでいる兵士たち、お人形さんとの私のニックネーム、そして約束した私にチョコレートを今日も明日も。飢えた少女の目にはアメリカは大いなる国だった。絹の国、そしてお金の。Okay, so that was the Japanese version of Festival of Dolls. And I will end with just one very short poem, and it's the title poem for Epicanthus. And so it is called Epicanthus. Curvilinear fold enveloping the Asiatic eye. Liminal barrier. Caucasoid, Mongoloid. The sly difference winks. The epithelial rim of the petit objet seduces the Lacanian voyeur into complicity with the obese camel lumbering through the glinting eye of the epicanthic needle. That's it from me. Thank you, everybody.
Those were wonderful. That was really special to hear the Japanese, and that last poem was just very haunting. So Tonya, you get to close us out with one last poem.
My last poem is short. It's not outwardly about war, but unfortunately it's about an invisible war that goes on all the time, or an invisible battle. And I wrote it several years ago, and it was current then. And I'm sorry to say that it's still current now. Neighbor for the Samaritan Patrol. I remember the story of a man lying by the road, half dead, and how those in power passed him by, but an ordinary person, moved to pity, stopped, looked after him. Out in the southern Arizona desert, a woman is kneeling, listening to the heart of a man who has wandered 3 days through this desert. She will give him water, food, any medical assistance she can. This is all she, a retired doctor, may do. This patch of sand, shaded by a Palo Verde bush, her consulting room. The sun, her examining light. Her truck, the pharmacy. Her patients, anyone.
These are all, it was just a very strong evening of spoken word. So thank you to all of the poets and spoken word artists. And we're going to end the evening with another piece by Michelle. And thank you all for coming. Sorry about the tech glitch, but we have been recording this, and so we'll put it up on Facebook. If your friends weren't able to log on and hear you read, they should be able to access through our Facebook page and also through our YouTube channel. So, Michelle.
Okay, camera issues again. Let's see, okay. I guess we got a little light there. Hey, Baba. San Lázaro. Baba Luaye. With prayers for health of all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much again to everybody. It was a wonderful evening. Our next spoken word will be September 1st. So because there won't be a spoken word stage at 4th Street this year, we're going to be doing our regular first Wednesday spoken word series. And that will be a special 4th Street Festival edition. And we'll be posting the information about the performers and the music on our website and in the newsletter. And so thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of our readers, to Hiromi, to J.L. Kato, and to Tonya Matthew. And thank you very much to Michelle Rose for the wonderful music. Thanks to Kyle for helping me with this. And Tony Brewer is in Brown County doing a tech rehearsal tonight, so he will be back with us in September. So we don't want to keep people who need to leave, but if you want to stick around and ask some questions or talk to the performers, we don't have to close out right away. So